Hello, everyone. Welcome to this sacred service. So, I talk a lot about what it means to clear an energy block or create more harmony in your energy flow or to have more of the energy flow you want. And I want to talk a little bit today about what I mean by that and what we're actually doing in a less elusive way, what we're doing in the body, how we're working with things, like why we're working with it. And so to kick it off, and we'll move into a little meditation to help you experience it, right? But so, what does it mean when we have energy blocked? Um, or there's a part of us that's like kind of inaccessible or locked away. Um, Part of us that isn't brought into the whole of our experience, like I talked about with like what it means to come into this whole holy moment, this bring all of ourselves to this present moment. And what we're doing is that like reclamation of parts, right? And that is increasing the flow of energy through us. So if we think of ourselves as less as this like concrete form and more as just energy moving, right? And these different energy centers we call chakras are really just like energy movement within us that carries a different frequency, and each of these chakras has a different frequency, but it's just kind of thinking about our form and who we are as energy is always in movement, and where in our energy flow, if it's all moving and all needing to flow together to create the whole of who we are, then what is impeding, and how do we work with that, with what is impeding that flow? So oftentimes that flow, this any kind of impediment that's created, any kind of block, anything that needs to be reclaimed, we talked about in a couple videos ago where we talked about what it means to heal. Go listen to that if you haven't already. This is a little bit of an expansion on that, right? So we're we maybe it's like an emotional injury that happened, an actual injury to our body, a wound that was created in even another experience, like a past life, right? Even an ancestral wound that we might be carrying, anything that has created a wound, an injury, something that we couldn't fully process at the time. And so, oftentimes trauma is thought of in that way, right? It's like too big. The reason trauma is created is because it's too much for us to process and move the energy through. When something happens to us, we get an electrical charge of energy. We get a charge of energy in the body. And do we have the tools? Do we have the capacity at that time? Do we have the support, the resources to work with that, to move it through? And oftentimes, if something was big enough, we can't. And so then we have some energy that gets stuck. Some of that charge that happened in us does isn't able to move all the way through and out and process. And especially so, I mean, the reason it often brings us back into like our younger years is because we have less capacity, less resources, less to work with, when these things happen. And so the energy that happens becomes less processable and then gets stuck in us. And so what we're doing when we're activating healing and working with blocks and working with flow is accessing this energy in the body. And so, when you're working with a therapist, you will be more like you'll be accessing the story. You'll be working through, thinking through what happened, how you want to work through it, how you work with that, how you mentally and psychologically. And and this is less of getting into the story, what and sometimes you move energy in that way, but oftentimes I'll even work with therapists, um to move it into more of like the physical experience of energy. and that sounds a little bit, uh, like the physical experience of energy. Our physical form is energy. And so it's more of like, how is the energy being processed through our nervous system, through our physical form? And then we're shifting the energy on that level, which doesn't require getting into story as much. And in fact, if I get into story too much, I'll often refer out to a therapist. And I have therapists that refer to me to help move into more of that physical layer. And so, and by physical, I mean like physical layer and energetic layer. I think of it as a spectrum, as I've talked about before. So, um, so this energy that's stuck, when something happens and we can't fully process it, we build a protection for ourselves. Largely something is, it's like, how can I protect myself from this thing that happened that I couldn't really like work with? I couldn't move through me in the way that I needed to in order for my energy flow to continue moving um in a really harmonic way for my being. And and then, especially so, like, what happens if there's like a recurrence, a regular recurrence of something that feels like it's injuring to us, that we can't fully process, and then becomes like this pattern that's deeply woven into us that holds our energy in this protective manner. um Sometimes it becomes like inaccessible even to us, like we don't even really know that we're protecting something, that there is a belief forms, right? A belief forms around what it means to have this like thing within us sparked or triggered, right? We hear that word a lot. There a belief is in place that helps us to process it in the way that we have learned to do to protect ourselves. And so when we begin to tap into these places where this energy is stuck in the body, and we begin to unravel deeper beliefs, we begin to free energy that has been stuck in the body and has been unprocessed. And we begin to let it move. When we let it move, we free ourselves from the beliefs that have been woven so deeply into our lives, that are informing our lives without us really consciously knowing how they're impacting our lives. It's just kind of like our subconscious playing out into our reality, and we become aware of that, and we bring more of ourselves to the table, just like I mentioned in that in the whole body healing video. I believe it was Sacred Service number 2. If you're interested in that and you want the link, drop a comment below and I will provide it for you. So once this energy is freed, we're able to reunite it with our presence, bring it more into our whole, right? This is what I talk about in that second sacred service, and newly base our actions, our decisions on the information we have at hand, that isn't being informed by outdated information, that isn't being informed by beliefs that were formed to protect you. That is So there's a more present moment consciousness at play. And so what we need, though, what happens when we access that, is that we're helping. One of my teachers even calls it like a an igloo, kind of like an igloo has formed around energy. And if you hold that igloo, right, you access what that is, where that is, what is this, where is the energy that's stuck in me, that is preventing me fully stepping into my present moment, me fully living the life I desire. What's keeping me stuck? We identify where that energy sits in the body, where it's held in this like frozen form. It's like it's frozen in time, and we hold it. And what would happen if you could hold like this miniature igloo in your hands? Um, if you held ice in your hand, if you held snow in your hand that was packed, it begins to melt. So, like holding snow in your hand, it can't help but begin to change shape. And this is what we do when we access these places. We just begin to hold them, and we begin to experience what's happening in the body, what's happening in the nervous system as we access this. And through breath work, through visualization, through through being able to hold ourselves from our present more wise consciousness that we've developed, we can give ourselves space to let that energy be processed in the now, in a way that it wasn't able to before. And we don't have to go deep into story. Sometimes that's helpful, but we can just we can help the body to regulate, the nervous system to regulate and begin to move that energy. And then extra special is to be able to call on forces that are outside of us, right? Like supportive forces. There's so many things that are here um, in this life that we have access to help us to move energy, that it doesn't have to just be ours to move. And so maybe that's called in if we need it, right? That's why every energy session that I do with somebody is completely different, because it really depends on what is needed for that person and what they how they need to move their energy, and it's really based on them and what's happening for them. So but we just help it change shape. We help it melt. And as it melts, like a creek that is frozen, as it melts, the energy begins to flow, the water begins to move, and it brings fluidity back into your life. It brings fluidity into that chakra, into that place within you where time got frozen, and suddenly you have more access to the fullness of you. And some ways that you can really help this happen, right? Letting the body do what it needs. The body's so wise, and the body will often just do what it needs to do to help process this charge if we give it space to. Crying is one way. Crying reduces cortisol in the system by 30%. That immediately helps the body to regulate. The body will move. If you let the body move, it will help to bring regulation in the way that is best needed for you. Sometimes stillness is needed, and we listen to that guidance that is provided by your physical body, which also then helps you tap into that guidance in a more day-to-day basis, because we're practicing it. And also to let nature hold you, to go outside, to look at the trees, to look at the sun. Remember that you are a being of nature. And by being in that beingness of nature, it automatically helps you to become more coherent in your system, to regulate as needed. So those are three ways that you can help to do that if you're working, if you're accessing a place that is kind of like frozen in time. Also really helpful to work with somebody to help to have just someone that can hold the container for you. When I do energy healing with people, I am I am holding a sacred container while you do the work that you need, and I help to guide it as needed. But it really is you working in a sacred way with yourself. Okay, so go ahead and settle in, and we're just going to work through a short meditation to help you experience this in your body. So, as you begin to just let that breath flow through you, begin to really just feel the form of your body, feel the surface beneath you, the weight of your body upon that surface, and just the natural rhythm of your breath. And as you bring your awareness to your physical form, simply notice any sensations that are present. There's nothing to fix, nothing to change, just a deep listening. Attuning to the flow of your breath, to the sensation of your body. Now bring to mind a challenge you've been facing, something that feels heavy, sticky, unclear. But rather than thinking about it, just notice where you feel it in your body. Does it show up as a tightness in the chest, a heaviness in the belly, a tension in the throat? Just place your awareness where you notice your attention going. Like gently placing your hand on a wound. And there's no need to force anything. Just acknowledge this place that is showing up for you, showing up to you through the felt experience of your body, acknowledging it with your presence. Now imagine this stuck energy as if it were a handful of snow in your palm. Feel its texture, its weight, its density. And now simply begin to breathe into it. With each inhale, you bring warmth. With each exhale, you soften and allow space. There's no rush, just holding, just breathing. Like snow in your hand, this energy cannot help but shift in your presence. As you continue to hold it with warmth and awareness, just notice, does it begin to change? Maybe it softens. Maybe it expands. Maybe it lightens. Maybe it simply becomes more spacious. Just trust what arises. You are not forcing, only allowing. And as you allow, you're welcoming this energy back into flow, back into harmony with your whole being. Now take a moment to just sense your whole body. Feel the subtle shifts, maybe the movement of energy that's been prompted, the spaciousness, the presence within you. You have opened a door, a doorway, however big it opened, into more freedom, more fluidity, more of you. Take one more deep breath in And as you exhale, gently bring movement back into your form, moving your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and carry this sense of warmth and flow with you. So, just using this experience as a way to sit with anything that comes up, anything that makes itself known to you, anything that draws you back into an experience that you can feel as held in you in a way that blocks you, that keeps you stuck, that impedes your flow. And know that there is support if you need it. And share with us what the experience is like for you, what this means to you, um, how you work with moving more into flow. Drop it in the comments and let's get a conversation started. Such important work and so needed for each of us to bring more of who we are to the table, to be fully in our sacred energy in as much in as many ways as possible in each present moment, to bring that to the table. And the opportunities that has for healing the collective are I feel like they're immense. Right. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share.